and welcome back to the weekly recap show we have here for 2024, the NCAA Division One indoor track season. Just going to recap what was a pretty significant weekend. We had some serious, outstanding number one performers, and then we've had some performances where we're not really shocked. We just can't wait to see more. We got a brief, wonderful preview at the track at New Balance in Boston, where the NCAA Division One Indoor Championships will be held. Some great performances there. The venue simply looks stunning, as we have seen. The many pictures of the venue, but I think that this the concerns that it would not be a fast track were kind of alleviated this weekend. Some of those marks were pretty solid and pretty strong. It's just going to take great competition to bring out, the best. And they're hosting the championship meet, so let's expect for that to bring some championship level performances and along with some championship record times. We'll get started outside of what we saw at Boston, a great venue. We'll do our four leg format, first leg, second leg, third leg, and anchor. And we'll adjust what the first and second leg and third leg and anchor leg will be depending on what we have from the previous weekend or what the video recording is about. And so today's really the first leg is the track at New Balance. As I just stated, it's a wonderful looking venue, should provide a great chance for championship record performances, along with being a visually stunning place, for the visual space, the visual medium on television. This will likely attract, some viewers just how beautiful the track looks. There were three number one performances at the venue this weekend: the men's shot put, the women's 400, and the women's pole vault. So again, it is capable of producing, great marks. It's a venue for that, specifically designed for that type of performance. So let's jump in now. We've quickly had our pop quick first leg. Let's move on to the second leg, which were the number one marks on the track. And we'll start in our usual area of the sprints and hurdles. One of our preseason favorites out of Tennessee, Jason Sears. Miss Sears again proved why she is the preeminent favorite to be the 60-meter dash indoor champion. She blazed the track again. 7.10 at the Ted Nelson Invite. A 7.1 is her debut for the indoor season in the 60-meter dash. That is Julian Alfred esque, if we're going to play a word game like PTI. That is a outstanding performance. She is now number one in the nation in both the 60-meter dash and the 200-meter dash. So I'm feeling pretty confident about my predictions about her. Miss Sears is having an outstanding start to her indoor season, and clearly things are going well with Coach Ross at the University of Tennessee. That is an outstanding time, 7.10 to debut. Could she possibly get under 7? We don't know. There's, still a month and a half of the season left, but expect for us to continue to bring her name up. And you also heard me state earlier the number one time in the nation, the women's 400, was ran at the very brand new track, the New Balance track in Boston. It came from a freshman, Jamezia Ford of South Carolina, 51.6, her debut. What a strong time. And normally we're starting to see, okay, which 400-meter runners were ready to compete, you know, sort of early in the season, who's waiting to the end of January, early February to really have their 400-meter mark show. But Ford just was ready. Jamezia Ford, 51.60, one of the fastest times we've seen from a South Carolina athlete in a while. We're talking about the heydays of Curtis Fry's South Carolina team, where he had just an array of great 400-meter runners, thinking of Natasha Hastings, Stephanie Alexander. I mean, there was a lot of really good 400-meter runners there under Coach Curtis Fry, and it clearly, under the direction of their new coaching staff, it's clear that they're going to pick up where they left off. 51.6 is a strong time, especially for a freshman. And Aaliyah Armstrong, here she is again back, and she retakes the lead nationally with a 7.90 to represent LSU in the 60-meter hurdles. She is one of our favorites to win the national title. She's won an outdoor national title in the 100 hurdles. 7.90 that was converted to 7.92 because it was at altitude at Texas Tech. However, I'm going to stick with that 7.90 because that was an eye popping time against a really solid field. And LSU continues to just produce great sprinters and hurdlers. And I think Armstrong is their clear leader in that camp. On the men's side, we're looking at a guy who has transferred. This is now his third school. He started at Florida, did very well, then moved on to Louisville, and now at Purdue and setting the Big Ten ablaze. That's Cameron Miller, an All American last year at Louisville, and is starting things off with a bang at Purdue. 20.40. It's been a very long time since we've seen a time of that speed ever in the Big Ten. It's a school record for Purdue. That's how he starts his year off. I mean, just this kid just continues to grow. I was curious to see, what could have happened had he stayed at Florida, but him moving on allowed for athletes like Robert Gregory to really grow at Florida. But Cameron Miller is showing that he's not going anywhere, and he is simply not playing around. 20.4 to start your season, yeah, pretty quick. And then you have William Jones, USC, um, talented freshman last year, came on strong, and it's clear that he might actually be the leader in the clubhouse in what is a really deep 400-meter group. We're waiting to see what Justin Braun will do because he was a versatile sprinter, running the one, the two, and the four, and he has run a 6.55 this year already. So I'm expecting for an eye-popping 400, but he's going to have to really compete against his teammate William Jones, the first sub 46 400 runner of the season, 45.9, outstanding. And to jump back into the 200 with Cameron Miller, that's the fastest time in Division One. Remember, the top time of all collegians is that junior college athlete from New Mexico who ran a 20.29. Now we're looking in the 60 hurdles, and Caleb Dean, as he was, predicted here to be the potential champion in the 60-meter hurdles for Texas Tech, he's living up to that. 7.55 against Michael Dixon, who was a finalist at the Olympic trials, and he's looking like he may be a finalist again and looking strongly to possibly make the team. Making that men's 110 high hurdle team is going to be really tough. And Caleb Dean might be the best collegian of them all. 7.55 that converts to a 7.57. However, like I stated with the Leah Armstrong, we're going to stick with their altitude time, 7.55. That is nothing to sleep at because he's very fast. He's a very versatile hurdler. And he may just be the best overall hurdle talent that we've seen since Grant Holloway because he just has so much speed and there's still a lot to learn from him technique wise, but it didn't really look like it this past weekend. He was very strong coming out of the blocks, going over each hurdle, especially the last three hurdles. He just seemed to constantly move forward and really give Michael Dixon a run for his money. But give Dean a little bit more time, and he's going to sharpen up. I mean, we may be looking at a low 7.4 and possibly a high 7.3 come the end of the season. And moving on to the other part of the second leg, we'll move to the distance. And there was only one women's performance that really stood out that was the number one time. And that happened in the mile. And it happened at Northern Arizona University, which, their track is a flat track, which means it's going to be converted. But the time still stands out. I mean, she ran a 440.34 on a flat track. That is a pretty solid time this early in the season, especially for an athlete that competes in cross country. It converts to a 4:30.16 mile. That's solid. I mean, we're hoping to see, some more sub 4:30s later on this season, but for her to get that time this early and in that program, we're going to expect to see more out of her kind of later on. And in the men's side, Nico Young, her teammate, he ran a 3:57.33 mile on a flat surface. That is incredibly fast. An incredibly fast sub 4 minute mile on a flat surface, and it converts to a 3:48.71. Nico Young has been an incredible talent from high school to college. I mean, his name is always mentioned in the finalists for a potential champion. He's yet to kind of win one. Maybe the mile is his game. I mean, a 3:48 mile, even though converted, you just can't ignore a time like that. He is really going to be mentioned here on out in pretty much any distance event he competes in. Eyes are going to continue to be on him. I think a performance like this makes the eyes even more focused. And that's saying something because, again, this is a known competitor. And I expect for him to continue to soar. I mean, he just continues to get better each year. I did not see this coming from him. I expected a respectful mile time. I really did. He was probably going to be top five, sure. But something that converts to a 3:48 mile is eye popping. It's jaw dropping. We will certainly be hearing more from Mr. Young. It's clear that the fall training and the cross country season did his body a world of good. And in the shorter distance, we'll go to defending 800-meter champion Yusuf Bizimana of Texas. I mean, picking up where he left off, 146.47 in the 800 this early? Is he going to run a 145 indoors? Wow. This is a very talented 800 runner, and Texas really just seems to have the middle distance races kind of solidified. I think, you would think not. It's Texas. It's so hot. Can they really produce distance runners? But they have been doing it. I mean, go back to Leo Manzano. They've had so many great middle distance runners, and he's the next one. I mean, he's already been at the top. I mean, but the next thing for him to do is kind of break more records. I mean, let's think about it. He's 146.4 now. We're looking at a potential 145 indoors. I just wrapping my head around that is just insane. This is a very talented young man. Expect more to hear more from him later on in the season. Now we transition over to our third leg. And in this leg, we'll look at the field events. And we'll start with the jumps. And on the women's side, we look at Temitope Adesina, a freshman at Texas Tech by way of Nigeria. Just, I mean, 6'5"? That's how you win a debut. Okay. Okay, here we are with another very dominant high jumper. It seems that they just come in waves. One goes out, the next one comes in. She's the next big name. Even though we have a really strong defending champion in Charity Huffnagel at Kentucky, but she's never jumped 6'5". And Timmy Tope Adesina really kind of put the NCAA on notice. Hey, I'm here, and I'm really good. I mean, 6'5", 1.96 meters. I mean, Texas Tech, what a program. I mean, Wes Kitley applauds to him. He's really just elevated this program to just championship level every time. And I expect for her to be one of those champions for them. Not saying that she's going to be the champion this coming indoor season. We got to see how she pans out as a freshman. But she's going to be one in the future. A 6'5" as your debut, that's some talent. Then we will move on to the pole vault with Chloe Timberg at Rutgers. This was the other top mark at the New Balance track in Boston. Uh, really getting close to that 15-foot mark. We haven't gotten quite there yet, but I think Timberg can put her name down as a potential competitor that can reach that mark. Out of Rutgers, she jumped 14 feet 9 inches, 4.5 meters. What a talented young lady. And let's look for her to really give us more performances. She's in a very competitive Big Ten conference, which has really been strong with the pole vault. I really would like to see her mark improve. I mean, she's getting closer to that 15-foot mark, so let's not be shocked when she gets to it. In the long jump, we had our favorite, Claire Bryant, a couple weeks ago, or last week rather, take the number one mark in the long jump. And we said the biggest challenge she's going to face is the top returning long jumper, and that's Akeelia Smith. And Akeelia Smith of Texas is a big clog in their team title hopes, and what a debut. 22-1 is her seasonal debut. She's already over 22 feet. She's already created some distance between her and Claire Bryant of Florida. 6.73 meters. This talented young woman is going to continue to just soar. I mean, we'll hear her name this summer for sure in Paris for Jamaica. I think she really is a super talented young lady, and might even give us 23 feet indoors. So let's see what she can do. Ruta Lastmain, another talented jumper from Texas Tech. She's, of course, transferred over from Florida State, and here she is now, number one in the nation in triple jump. 44 feet, 11 and 3/4 inches, or 13.71 meters. Just continues to show up, and she continues to perform at a high level. And it's proof that making the change to Texas Tech was probably very smart for her. And that's saying a lot, because Florida State is very good at developing great jumpers, specifically in the triple jump. So for her to go from Florida State to come to Texas Tech took a lot of courage. It took a lot of, doing her research, and clearly it worked, because she is really off to a great start. Now, on the men's side, we'll see a Kentucky athlete, a pair of Kentucky athletes kind of lead the way in the jumps. First, we have Keaton Daniel of Kentucky Y with the pole vault. He's our first 19-foot jumper of the season. Finally, we have somebody. And it's early still. We're still in sort of mid to late January. 19 feet and a quarter inches or 5.8 meters for Keaton Daniel for our first 19-foot jumper. And his teammate Luke Brown uh, kind of making a name for himself in the triple jump. 55 feet, 1.5 inches, 16.8 meters. He beat Russell Robinson of Miami. This is a new name. I mean, we had our favorites. We still look at Jadon Hibbard of Arkansas as the primitive guy, but here's another talented triple jumper in the SEC, man. And he's just a sophomore, so we'll be hearing his name too. I mean, Jadon Hibbard, again, he is the guy, but you can't ignore a mark like that. 55 feet, 1.5 inches. We'll be mentioning him for sure. In the throwing events, another SEC talent, Alexander Klosnikov of Georgia, took the lead in the shot put, and he was our third performer to hit a number one mark at the track at New Balance. 67 feet, 1.25 inches, or 20.45 meters. Georgia has not changed, even with the changing coaches. Coach Carol Smith Gilbert has still made the field events a positive foundation piece, a part of Georgia's championship team title hopes. And this is an obvious sign that things are still just moving along well in that side of the sport for Georgia. And on the weight throw, Tyler Sudeth of Illinois, 75 feet, 11 inches, 23.14 meters. So that completely removes Ole Miss from the top. But we have now a Big Ten guy leading the way. These throwing events, I'm looking forward to even better marks because for us to be here this early is such a positive sign, and that it will be a very competitive championship season or postseason in the throwing events, which I certainly look forward to, and I know you all do as well. And we'll end here on the anchor leg, and we'll talk about those rankings that just came out courtesy of FlowTrack. On the women's side, it had Florida winning, and on the men's side, it was Arkansas as number one. And it's too early for me to disagree or agree with rankings because we still haven't seen what some of these teams have. I feel like Arkansas hasn't even released their jumpers yet. So I mean, what do we do? We have the big meet next week, the Razorback Invitational. I expect for us to see some changes with the rankings, big time, not just on the track, but in our field events. We're gonna see some changes, and I think it'll make adjustments. Seeing Florida there now, when I don't think their team has really kind of performed at the level that they expect them to yet, specifically in the long sprints. We're waiting to see what will Ramia Elliott and Kayla Davis do in the 400 because their 200s were okay debuts, but I really need to see some 52 or 51 performances to really kind of have a belief that they'll have a strong shot at winning the national title because you can't just rely on Grace Stark and the jumpers. They're going to need their runners to step up. Florida has really been a team, a program that's focused on being built uh, in every area to be successful, not just the sprints, the hurdles, the jumps, the throws, but the distance. Because I mean, they're returning Parker Valby, who is our favorite to win the 5K. But we need to see those sprinters kind of get involved. I mean, there's too much talent there for them to not to be able to compete and perform at a high level there. But I do really expect for Florida to be a team competing for the national title, certainly. On the men's side, it's way too muddy. There's not been enough that we've seen, whether it be from Florida, whether it be from USC. I think Texas has held back some, but what they've shown is really strong. I think you can't ignore LSU. You certainly can't ignore distance programs like Oklahoma State. I mean, there's so much more to come. I think we'll have a clearer picture after the Razorback Invitational. And there's another big meet at the University of Louisville this coming weekend. So we should see shakeup. I think next week is when we'll have a better understanding. But I think you really don't get a clear picture of where teams are until early February. But I do love the excitement that we have with the rankings. To me, obviously, they're fine, but I'm not going to agree or disagree with where those teams are. I'm just making an argument for what we've seen. It's really certainly not enough to even say they're there in those spots yet. But certainly Florida women strong team, Arkansas men a strong team, but there's a lot of other strong teams, and there's still more great performances to come. So that'll be our weekend recap for January 2024. We'll see you here next week. Potentially, there may be a live stream to prepare for the Razorback Invitational. If there is one, it'll be this Thursday. You'll hear about it. Please like and subscribe. Feedback is always encouraged. If you, whether it's positive or negative, I want to grow this channel. I would like for this to be a big portion of the track and field space. You are a big portion of it as well as I am. I just really would like for us to work together in community to help grow our sport and to make it as popular as that we know we can be. So thanks again. See you next time and stay safe.